And what a show! Explosion. Raiders motorhome burning up on the I-10. Peace breaking out in the Middle East. Exclusively brought to you by Donald J. Trump. We'll have more update on the Katie Porter situation. Is she a B or a C? And I think everybody pretty much knows that by now. This and much, much more on that. But as you see from the Weber Valley Speedway, the famous Weber Valley Speedway, you're going to see the explosion of the day. Let's see if she will play.
Now, first, that thing just blowed all to pieces. I told y'all that tank weren't going to hold. He's moving, folks. He's moving. Look at him crawl out of there. Oh, man. That rocket, folks. Hang on.
Oh, got to get a little levity in right off the top of the show because we had a lot of serious topics to discuss today. None other than brought to you by he's working on being the greatest president in the United States of America, world leader of all time. It was announced just before we came on the show last night that Donald J. Trump, announced that there was a ending of the 2-year war between Gaza and Israel and Hamas. 2 years are done. They're signing the deal. We're supposed to be getting the hostages back either this weekend or by Monday. I believe there's 20 or so alive still, about 28 Americans dead. They will be returning home to their rightful home here in the United States and to their loved ones. Just goes to show you the power of someone who knows how to lead, who cares about other people, and is willing to get in there and do the trenches and work for whatever's right, no matter what the cost, how long it takes, how much effort it is. He sent the ambassador and Rubio over there and basically said, don't come back till you get this done. And they did. They worked out the details, got the agreement signed. And here we are, one of the maybe biggest compliments of all time. Here's what some of the dominant ding dong media finally had to admit. We're going to run a couple clips. Maybe we'll run some more later on in the show, but here's a few from them. Here we go.
Make no mistake, it looks like President Trump has actually pulled off something here that many presidents before him have failed to do.
Just need to underscore what an enormous moment this is for.
ABC News, the mouse, CNN, they had to be in just devastating, worse than childbirth pain, worse than passing kidney stone pain, to admit something no other president has been able to do. Absolutely incredible, enormous moment. Here's some more.
So many people in this region, for the people of Gaza who have endured 2 years of war, for the families of these 48 remaining hostages who have endured 2 years of absolute agony. This is a watershed moment.
We've heard it again and again from a number of people today, really giving credit to President Trump for getting this deal over the finish line. What are you hearing from your
watershed moment? Really giving credit to President Trump. President Trump for getting this done. Here's the president after the show last night when he was on with Hannity. Go.
The big thing is hostages are going to be released. It's probably our time would be probably Monday, and you know they're a terrible situation. They're deep in the earth, and they're being gotten, and a lot of things are happening right now as we speak. So much is happening to get the hostages freed, and we think they'll all be coming back.
What a great accomplishment. I know that was Trump's biggest, or I don't know. That was Trump's biggest concern. He always mentioned the hostages. We have to get the hostages out of there. And that looks like by Monday, we should have all 48 of them back. Man, thank goodness. Can you imagine? No, I didn't even want to think. If Clown Show Kamala Harris was in there. Holy bejesus. Man, the Katie Porter situation. We know all the stuff at the interview CBS Sacramento did. And we want to know what you think. I think she's an all-out C, not a B. And both of those words in with T, and I'm sure we can all fill in the blanks. On top of that, her own staff and others. I have met nobody in anyone that's had any contact, worked for, collaborated with, that doesn't absolutely loathe Katie Porter. They would rather have needles in their eyeballs than have to deal with her. That's figuratively, but that's, if you can imagine that, that's what they think of her. And Politico had a new one. We'll hopefully get into that. Maybe when Susan Shelley comes on too, we'll touch on this. But she was being interviewed during the Biden administration by Jennifer Griswold, who was the energy secretary. She was going on about climate change. And one of her staffers came in, and I don't know if this is in her house or maybe this is how her place was in back in when she was a congresswoman, because this was in November of 2024. She was still a congresswoman. I don't know if it was in her DC place, her office, her home art, her OC, or what. But she's going on, she's telling some 100% falsehoods, if not outright lies, about climate change. And her staffer comes in to correct her. And this is what the psycho chick, the C, had to say. We go.
And the state could lose get out of my fucking shot.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually correct. It's not that it's electric vehicles, it's that if we don't make a commitment to the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shot before that. Stay out of my shot. Okay, I'm going to start again with electric vehicles saving us money.
Can you believe that? And what really struck me about that is the staffer, like, no reaction back, because this is probably the 9 millionth, 600,000, 52,436 time this has happened to her. With Miss Potato Head over here. The C. The word rhymes with hunt. Could you imagine her poor husband who got a boiling pot of potatoes poured over him by this. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how I don't know how that dude stayed married to her, around her that long. I don't know how her staffers, every one of them, she has one of the highest turn rates in the history of the world of employees. Again, I've heard nobody that's had any contact with her. Even Nancy Pelosi, who I disagree with about 111% of the time, hates Katie Porter. She tried pulling. She wanted on a committee. She was on a committee, one of the committees, and it didn't schedule with her time because she's a single mom and she has to do that. So she got the time changed, and Pelosi found out about it, that she went behind. Pelosi says, "No, we're not changing it for you." So she went behind her back and got it. Pelosi threw her clear off the committee. Will not speak to her. Vaya caramba. We'll have some more on the Katie Porter files. You can. It is possible that you can get rid of Trump derangement syndrome. Yesterday, Trump had a whole crew over there that were going over all the Antifa, what's been going on all across the country, especially in Portland, why we should be in there. This was a reporter. And she tells her story and makes one of the most shocking and surprising revelations we do.
That you can recover from TDS. I had strong Trump derangement syndrome for probably 8 years. This is one of the reasons I recovered from it. And by the way, it's much better to not have TDS. I'm happier, I'm healthier, more successful. I even think I got a little more attractive after I got rid of my Trump derangement syndrome. Yes. I'm a reporter in Seattle, and
I'm a reporter in Seattle. A reporter. For 8 years, she had Trump derangement syndrome. There were more stories. There's about a dozen of them. Andy Ngo, one of the most famous, and was really reported that had to move out of the country because he felt his life was threatened. We'll have more on this again later on in the show, but that was a stunning statement, but true. And she's right. Well, you get rid of all the hate and being distorted in the lies and everything else, you're going to be happier. You are going to look more attractive. Your life is going to be much better. This is on the 10 freeway at Milliken. They're in the big famous town of Ontario. Looks like a Raiders motorhome, or somebody that likes the Raiders. I don't know if it was theirs or somebody that's just really a big fan, but it burnt to the ground or close to it. There, as you see in the Milliken off-ramp or right by it, they're in Ontario. So if you're a Raiders fan, I guess you're probably sad. If you're a Raiders hater, you were probably cheering on the Flames. I heard nobody got hurt. We don't want to make light of that, but reportedly no injuries or anything on that. So, but was kind of ironic. The Raiders motorhome. And again, I don't know if it was connected to the Raiders football team themselves or was just a big fan of them. This one is very interesting. We've talked about this many, many times. Denmark proposes banning social media for kids under 15. It's stealing our kids' childhood, says the Danish Prime Minister. The Danish prime minister is saying social media is stealing our children's childhood. I'd say with that and the video games and looking at the screens, whether they be big ones or 3x5 screens or the 84-inch one, they're going bloop, 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 bloop all day and boom, bang, boom, whatever. But that's a pretty damning report. We've been saying that. A lot of other people have been saying that. Jean Twenge, Dr. Jean Twenge from down in San Diego, has written many books and that. We've had her on the show. Said it's driving kids crazy. Now it's finally getting national attention, and none too soon over that. Clean up your own dang mess.
The president has been trying to put violence in the Black communities.
No, he hasn't. And he doesn't need to do that. We do it ourselves. We don't need any help with more violence. Black Americans are 13.6% of the population. The average between 2022 and 2023, which are the most recent years we have data for, is 48.8% of the murders were from Black Americans.
So violent crime, murders, blacks, 13% of the population, almost 50% of the murders are committed by blacks. It's almost 4 times, 400% per capita in that. It's don't blame it on anyone else. Don't blame the low student achievement rate, which leads to a high incarceration rate. Go look at the studies. Do not blame it on anybody else but the Black culture. Good, bad, or indifferent, you're a product of your environment. And if you're going to promote that, then you're going to live with the consequences. And if you blame somebody else, you're intellectually dishonest at best. Please come in. We'll have a discussion about it. Because there's no one to blame. But yourself. Quit trying to blame other people for your mess. Stephen A. Smith, specifically on the Chicago deal, here we go.
Ain't about Trump in Chicago. It's not about Republicans in office. It's not about Republicans having the House or the Senate. It's about no matter who the hell is in office or who's out of office, the same problems persist in the streets of Chicago. And you got Black people clamoring for national interference and federal assistance. Legally.
Clamoring because it's out of control. And even if Trump comes in and fixes it like he does Washington, D.C., you need to change your culture, attitude, and stop blaming everyone else for your problems. Stop shouting everyone down so you can live a lie. More from Stephen A.
Perhaps, Governor Pritzker, you should say, you know what? I do need federal assistance. I may not want the National Guard, but let's sit down and talk and figure out something. Because clearly what we're doing in Chicago ain't enough.
And I'm going to tell you to the rest of the Black community, if you want to sit down and have a discussion, like over here at the crime syndicate or schools or everywhere else, or the community or incarceration rates, or we're this, or we're downtrodden, it's all the white man's fault and the whole thing. If you want to come up with solutions, let's sit down and talk on the table and make them. If you want to keep perpetuating the BS, then we're just gonna lock horn. Because we're not tolerating stupidity, injustice, racism, and everything else that's been promoted. Again, if you want to get to solutions, the door is open. If you want to fight, then we'll deal with that too. This one, America is jumping for joy. IRS furloughs nearly half of its workforce, shuttering most operations. And again, the US, the people are saying, man, is it Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, and my birthday all in one day? I don't think anybody except the few that got furloughed. I don't think the rest of 350 million Americans did anything but celebrate that the IRS is shuttering most of its operations. Remember this? Gavin Newsom is telling you no on Prop 50 in no uncertain terms. No, no, no. Ballots are out. Get them in as quickly as possible. You cannot delay. There's going to be a turnout election. And we better outturn their ass. We'll have Susan Shelley up at the bottom of the hour. Hopefully, she's going to be on Thursday because she's out working, getting the petitions for the Howard Jarvis initiative, the No on 50, and getting the vote out for that. So she's got events booked up all Wednesday. So for the month of October, she will be on today on Thursdays, hopefully, if available. We got this and much, much more to go on with the rest of this hour. Yes, we do. Just in case I get thrown off the evil FB network, just as you're seeing a lot of things coming on. My Roy A. Blecker account just got suspended for 180 days. I don't know why. We'll find out. Plus, a lot of my posts or sharing or being taken down as we speak. I've been getting prompts all day. So if I'm off the evil FB network, you will know why. They're really cracking down. I wondered why it's taking them so long. Maybe they're just going after me. Maybe they're just getting emboldened. They're going to go after a lot of people like they did. Who knows? Maybe Trump's getting too much notoriety over the Israeli Hamas war coming to an end, the hostages coming back, and everything else that's coming on. Reporters getting rid of 8 years of Trump derangement syndrome. A lot of things are turning our way. None other than this little vignette, and I can't emphasize this enough. As Gavin Newsom is telling you, no on 50. This is going to be your ballots are in. You can get them back in. It's going to be imperative that we defeat Newsom's latest maneuver to stop peace and prosperity in the United States and the world. They're beyond panicking over this. play a few more clips. Here we go.
Forces with regard to President Trump's role in getting both parties to sign off on at least the first phase of this peace plan.
Well, certainly this is an enormous moment for the world, but also for this administration, a big win for the president who has been very personally involved in this, Lindsay.
Is a major accomplishment for President Trump, something that he's been really trying to work toward. There's been a lot of critics and questioning of whether or not he could pull off sort of negotiating and working to try to get all these sides together. Of course, there were a lot of nations involved. So this is, of course, not just a victory for President Trump, but really a number of Arab nations, Hamas, and of course, Israel. But this is really huge news. And the president, of course, announcing it online.
Okay. You just heard PMSNBC or whatever they're calling it now. They're probably still cleaning up around there from the heads that have exploded over there and all across, from the New York to the DC bureaus to Los Angeles, Chicago. The ding-dong dominant media, and this is what they're really panicked about. They're losing control of the narrative, like that young lady reporter that says, I had Trump derangement syndrome for 8 years. But now I'm free from those shackles and chains.
So what do you make of what the president has said in a social media post, that they've signed off on the first phase of the peace plan? What does that mean to you?
Anderson, momentous day. There's not much good news in the world. This is great news. I am trying to hold it together, honestly. Worked on this issue a very long time.
Israel, make no mistake, this is a huge night, potentially the end of the nightmare. For the people of Gaza, this is going to be an enormous relief. For the people of Israel, potentially the end of a 2-year-long nightmare.
And for these families still waiting for the remaining hostages who are still alive to come home, this has been an agonizing wait. And of course, the families who will get the remaining.
They even tried tempering the magnitude of the moment. But they still had to admit this is one of the most monumental foreign policy just off the charts outcome. And you know, with all the bad stuff going on, almost everything in the world's wrecked, but Trump comes through with this. I mean, they still had to put a negative behind it. That's as close as they could come.
20 seconds until I start everything, and Susan is on the line.
Okay. As Jesse said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met KMET 1490 AM, as we usually do at 5:30. And we'll have Susan on, and we'll continue with the rest of the show.
2 seconds, here we go.
Today, IE Newswire Daily is on the air. The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience in the Evil Lippy Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, all that good stuff. Check us out, subscribe, do all that neat stuff. Things breaking out all over. Trump ends the Israel-Hamas war. The dominant media doesn't even know how to handle it. They're losing control. A reporter up in Seattle admits for 8 years she had Trump derangement syndrome. and how her life now that she gotten, and she says it's possible to get rid of it because I did, how the sun is brighter, her life is, she hears the birds chirping. She even said she even looks more attractive now that she got rid of the Trump derangement syndrome. We have the No on 50 campaign. Less than 30 days, I think, to get those ballots in. Lots more. Denmark saying, hey, we're thinking about banning social media. All of it for those under 15. But as we usually do on a Wednesday, but for October, since she's working on the Howard Jarvis deal and the No on 50 campaign and stuff, is going to be on Thursdays in October, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inlet Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts. More important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to iNewsWire, Leroy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you on a Thursday.
What really has struck me after the announcement, after Trump late in the afternoon, evening yesterday made the announcement, how the dominant media, as hard as they could do, they could not spin a negative at that, and they had to go on the air, and they've had to for the past day, saying this may be one of the greatest foreign policy triumphs in world history. They're just, but you can see the sour looks on their face, and I think what this really is behind it is they see they're losing the control of the narrative they've had for far too many decades. What's your thoughts on it, Susan?
Well, you're absolutely right. And they also see themselves losing the 2026 midterm elections, and they see all their talking points falling, and they see their stupid comments from before looking even more stupid, because Trump said on the Sean Hannity show that the reason he could make this deal was because of the relationships he built with various leaders of various countries. And you remember when Trump went to the Middle East and he met with these different Arab leaders, how he was just savaged by the liberal media for not, confronting them on whatever it is that the liberal media that week decided to be upset about. And then when he conducted that incredibly successful raid on the on the Iranian nuclear facilities, they were not happy about that for various reasons. And what did Trump say? He said it's because of his relationships, getting rid of Iran's nuclear threat, and the tariffs that he was able to use to coerce these countries, or persuade, if you like, these countries to stop violent, aggressive actions and work with him on trade for everyone's benefit. Everything they said going up to this moment about how wrong he was on these things, he's been proven right. And I think that is really hitting home.
I do. I think with they're losing control with the Schumer shutdown. They've always been able to push that either on the Republicans in Congress or the president at the time when it's happened and all these things. And it just, hey, you could really call him the real Teflon Don. This stuff doesn't stick to Trump. They have not been able, as much as they've tried, and they put Trump through probably 10 times more than they have any other president. And he just keeps coming back, and he doesn't flinch. He keeps going forward like with this. Even though people were criticizing him for all rounds in this Israeli-Hamas conflict, he didn't deter. He actually sent the ambassador and Rubio over there and said, "Don't come back till you get this done," and they got it done, Susan.
Yes, and interestingly, he says everyone will be treated fairly. So this is the deal he made with Hamas, that he was going to give them essentially safe passage out, or a piece of the action on the economic growth of the Gaza Strip. We don't really know what the deal is yet, but we do know that the other Arab nations are going to be putting a lot of money into rebuilding Gaza, and we know that the president said everyone will be treated fairly, so there will be no resentments, and there will be no enemies, and there will be no blowback. This is a new way of doing business. It's just doing business instead of nursing grudges and selling weapons.
1,000%. And again, I mean, he wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, and he said he's always maintained that's been my strong point, is bringing people together, for whatever objective we're trying to accomplish. And he's probably been no more successful at it, especially in Trump 2.0, of doing that. And like I said in the opening show, he's working on being, at least from my perspective, not only in my lifetime, maybe of all times, of being the greatest president and maybe the greatest world leader we've ever seen on the history of the stage and the history of the world, Susan.
Well, certainly the best 9 months we've ever seen in the White House, without a doubt. What he has accomplished from a standing start in January is just nothing short of phenomenal.
I agree with that 100%. I've been impressed every day. I mean, like I said, from this 9 months, every day, at least Monday through Friday, and probably the first 2 or 3 months, it was Saturday and Sunday, he's held press conferences or a press briefing almost every day, taking questions from reporters. And again, I could say hands down, you can love Trump, hate him, do anything in between. There's no question, by a factor of 111. He's been the most transparent president. It isn't even close. I mean, and I think that's another thing that bugs them too, is they can't get to this guy, Susan.
Yeah, they can't get to him. Well, they tried everything. They tried raiding his house, putting him in handcuffs, mugshots. They tried everything. But none of it worked because he was right and they were wrong, and he wasn't afraid and he wasn't conceding anything. Because they were wrong and he was right. And the strength of it was incredible. And, to the point where they were threatening him with fines that were going to destroy his business and his fortune and everything, and try to force him to sell his income-producing properties in New York and essentially force him out of business. And now the latest I've heard is Letitia James may be in handcuffs. So this is quite a turnaround. James Comey is in court pleading not guilty when he's plainly guilty, and Letitia James under investigation for mortgage fraud. And all of these crooks that went after him with this incredibly politicized use of law enforcement, they're all going to end up in trouble, and he's saving the world. While this is going on in the background, he's saving the world.
Before we get to your column on Prop 50 and Vote No, I just want to get your thoughts on the Katie Porter meltdown, Susan.
Well, I really think that she should start working on her book on why she didn't win the governor's race.
Maybe you can write it for her.
Yeah, she can go on a book tour with Kamala Harris. She can hire the same publicist. It's basically the same story. Well, that was a pretty good demonstration of someone who does not have the temperament to be in high public office. And that's the nicest thing you can say about it. The more interesting part of it, I think, is how dismissive she was of the idea that there were people who voted for Trump in California and that she would have to speak to them. That, to me, was just remarkable. And, all credit to the reporter who was asking the question, 40% of the voters in California voted for Trump. What do you think about that in your campaign? Just having a reporter acknowledge that 40% of Californians are not crazy progressive liberals was a step in the right direction. So the whole thing was just really very revealing.
And again, if you don't think that the long knives are out for her, and like I've said, anybody I've known that's had any contact with her absolutely loathes her, from Nancy Pelosi on down of that. But when after the first clip, after the clip up there in Sacramento where she did that, then the establishment is after her when the Politico one got released today, and that makes her look even worse. I mean, hopefully, I don't know, this is California, but hopefully, if nothing else, maybe there's a slight possibility we're going to dodge the Katie Porter for governor of California deal, because, just like if Kamala Harris would have got president this year, you imagine what would be going on with everything. If Katie Porter gets in as governor, holy cow. I just don't even want to think about that. My head really will explode. But I want to get to I want to get to your column because this is
So many people don't want to think about that.
yes, I of that. But the most important stuff, because voting has started, and not only to stop Katie Porter, but maybe as a point, maybe we can mark this or next month, November, as a turnaround point in California. Your column is Vote No on Prop 50 to Protect Fair Elections, Susan Shelley.
Yes, Prop 50 is bringing Illinois-style politics to California. California voters threw out politician redistricting. It's always been the case that there was politician redistricting, where the politicians would draw the maps to benefit themselves and their own party and to ace out their opponents to the fullest extent that they could. And the famous squiggles, so the gerrymander term itself is named after one of these districts that was a lizard-shaped crazy district to try and create political advantage. But Californians threw that out, and they created the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission in 2008, and then they extended it to the congressional races in 2010. What Gavin Newsom and his people want to do is throw that out, but just for 3 election cycles, and then they're going to let the independent people come back in and draw them again. Why do they want to do that? Because it's convenient for them to suspend the Constitution and use Illinois-style map drawing. And by the way, the guy who did the Illinois-style map drawing is on his way to federal prison for wire fraud and bribery and conspiracy and I forget what else, typical Illinois politicians. That will be coming to California if the voters agree to pass Prop 50. So the whole Prop 50 campaign is all about deceiving voters into thinking they're really voting to support independent redistricting. Everything is written that way. If you want to keep independent redistricting, vote no. Leave it alone. No changes. Just vote no. The campaign to pass this is so deceptive and so wrong. And I really think Californians are tired of being lied to this way and being deceived by ballot measures. It's no credit to Gavin Newsom. He says he's saving democracy. Well, tricking the voters into rigging the elections for Democrats is hardly saving democracy.
And again, I don't see. I know Arnold and a couple others are leading the campaign on No on 50, but they keep letting the other side run this narrative that it's a Trump. He's trying to take over the election. He's power. No, Texas is under federal law orders, sued by the Biden administration to redo their maps. California is not. We are the one that's doing the gerrymandering of this. Gavin Newsom is the one gerrymandering. He's hoping to use it as a platform, obviously, to launch his presidential campaign. I don't know. You never say never in politics. I mean, even if we defeat 50, that still doesn't mean the end of Gavin Newsom. I mean, it puts a big dent in his, like Katie Porter's little thing going on. But we need to put this in. On top of that, we are really going to be scrambling in 32 because we're going to lose anywhere from 3 to 5 seats. And if they do this, they're going to have a lot of PO Democrats going in because not only with shrinking seats, if we do possibly go back to even semi-fairly redrawn districts, they're going to be in a world of hurt. So even though the way I see it, even though they may make a short-term gain by passing this, even if they pass it, the long-term outlook for Democrats, especially in California, is really going to be behind the 8 ball, because if they actually get this passed, they might, it's going to be one of these be careful what you wish for, you just might get it, Susan.
You're so right, and there are so many different ways that this can go wrong for Gavin Newsom. For one thing, there could be litigation. Shirley Weber, the Secretary of State, said at the time that this was being considered in the legislature, she said there's no guarantee that this is not going to be set aside by a court. So we don't have certainty on what these districts are going to be for the June primary. So that's a big problem. The whole thing could be set aside and be uncertain. And of course, the other thing that could happen is other states could redistrict mid-decade after California does. One of them is Florida. Florida could pull a lot of Republican seats out of their current maps and make it more Republican. Indiana could do that. Missouri could do that. And the Democrat states, like Illinois, they've squeezed all the juice out of that lemon. They don't have anything left to give on gerrymandering. And New York can't do it for 2026. They have a constitutional restriction in place, so they couldn't do it before 2028. So it could very well be that what Gavin Newsom has started is an arms race that he cannot win.
1,000%. Again, like I say, I see them, maybe it's just accumulation of this. Maybe, maybe the stars are lining up right or something. But again, I keep seeing the American people are winning on this thing. I mean, even of the deal, the IRS is basically shutting down and furloughing all the employees over the Schumer shutdown. I mean, and what else could America celebrate more than that? That you don't have to worry about the IRS being up your rear end. I mean, it just seems like everything they're doing right now is backfiring on there. I couldn't be happier, and I think the vast majority of the American people, we ran it earlier, Stephen A. Smith and another guy are saying, hey, Chicago, it's a disaster over here. Even whatever, if you don't want the feds in there or whatever, come to the table with Trump and figure it out. He fixed DC. We're in a war zone over here. We're getting killed right and left. We can't go outside. We need help somewhere. Figure it out. And like I say, I see a lot of energy for really improving the lives of American people coming on. What do you think, Susan?
I agree with you, and it all comes from the fact that Trump is not afraid, and no matter what names they call him, he doesn't back down when he knows he's right. And he has backed the Democrats into this crazy position where they're in favor of crime, they're in favor of illegal immigration, they're in favor of terrorists, they're having margaritas with gang members. He has put them in this position because they are so afraid to say that Trump is right about anything that they will take the opposite position against apple pie and motherhood, literally motherhood. Now they're in favor of men who are women. This is crazy what he backed them into doing. Other Republicans in these things is the Democrats would call them names and they would back down and they would say, oh, no, I don't mean to be. I'm really a compassionate conservative. And they would go all weak at the knees and they wouldn't stand up for what's right.
Your other column this week is LADWP, Department of Water Power, is facing an investigation by the U.S. Senate. Susan Shelley.
Yes, well, the LADWP has a lot of... Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, what was happening is is the U.S. Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, chaired by Ron Johnson, has sent a letter to the LADWP asking for all the correspondence and all the records about water, power, maintenance, repairs, all the correspondence with federal agencies, the governor's office, the mayor's office. They're going to do a real investigation of the failures of LADWP in the Palisades fire. Not this whitewash that's being done in California investigations where the culprits are in charge of the inquiries.
It's absolutely fantastic, and I think with the federal report and the LA report coming in about the fires and everything, all the stuff they told us. Oh, we couldn't have. There was plenty of water. There are all the stuff. We didn't have personnel. We couldn't have this. We didn't have that. Now they've had to admit, well, the feds came in, and now LA, most of the city's admitting, yeah, all the stuff they were telling us, all the excuses they had, for this, it was pure BS. They had 98.7% of the ability to fight that fire effectively and not let it spread like it did. And it was just from the incompetence. I don't know what other reason. They have plenty of money over there to do these things. They had the equipment, they had the staffing, they had everything that we've given them with our money to keep our homes and our community safe. And this has got to be one of the most colossal. We blew it in all-time history, Susan.
It sure is, and there are a lot of lawsuits that have been filed against the DWP. There are a bunch of private attorneys who are looking for discovery on this, and now there's going to be a Senate investigation pulling all this information out. They probably won't respond to the letter, that would be my guess, but then there will be subpoenas, and then there will be hearings, and then there will be witness testimony. It won't be fast, but it will be something. And LA cannot be allowed to get away with this. While they were having diversity conferences and celebrating indigenous festivals, which they were having summer solstice festivals and staging that, instead of repairing basic infrastructure and making sure that they had backup plans in the event of equipment failure. They did not do what they needed to do, and people paid with their lives and their property.
Got about a minute left. Tell them why they should join HJTA. Go.
Well, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is fighting for a new ballot initiative to save Prop 13 from a bunch of liberal court decisions that have made it easier to raise your taxes and tried to erase your protections that are in Prop 13. So go to saveprop13.com and get the petition. We need your signature to make this happen, to get this on the ballot next year. We need 1 million signatures by February, but we need them faster than that. So go to saveprop13.com and join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association at hjta.org and be a member of this great organization fighting for taxpayers. Cancel the U-Haul. Join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do this again next week.
Thank you, Roy.
You got it. Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. We are, and I mean, you know, no matter what rocks have been thrown at us, the American people here lately, we've been able to endure it, and now we're starting to see the fruits of standing strong and, you know, just working for what's right. Because if we do that, everybody's going to have an opportunity to live the life they would like to. And probably deserve, in most cases. Few people don't. And yeah, I'm talking to you, Katie Porter. But most people do. And I would like to see, you know, I'm sure all of us, I'd like to see a world where everybody had that opportunity and was happy and got rid of their Trump derangement syndrome and got more attractive, as the young lady said, after she got rid of that disease, after it was exorcised from her bones and her blood and her psyche. The world's was much better getting out of the abyss of that. Get into some of the local news and stuff, headlines that were on IE Newswire. Speaking of Donald J., Bibi Netanyahu, Israeli president, says Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. And he's been angling. You know he wants that bad, and he deserves it. I don't see who else. After this, hopefully he, you know, and he said he thought it was going to be the easier one, but he said it, and it is, it usually winds up being this way most of the time. You get the Russian-Ukraine thing settled, which he thought was going to be the easiest, and it's turning out to be the hardest. But that's really the last one left on the table. Fontana man accused of stealing from a Rancho C Apple store. It's a good job doing that. Rancho C cops. Man arrested for having child sex abuse images. That was from the Redlands PD. Vagrant felon arrested by the Purdue cops. Not only was he doing that, he had firearms in his possession, which is a big no-no if you are a felon in the U.S. Paid hit, 2 were arrested in Riverside. Kenny Andrew Johnson and Alfonso Jeffrey Monk Jr. were arrested for possibly carrying out a paid hit. Can you help out the cops and the canine and the kids? Hemet Police has that. They're collecting candy donations for Halloween. So if you can, help those dudes out on there for a good cause. Homicide investigation. Purdue cops are looking for any information on the Javon Hill homicide. You have any info on that? Do that. Of course, Hamas accepted Trump's peace plan, ending the 2 years of the Gaza war, returning the hostages. Chino cops recovered a whole ton of stolen property on that. So as you see, things shall be turning around of that. Of course, we had the Internal Revenue Service is closed right now. America could not be happier going all across the board. Keep it up. Again, get those ballots in. No on 50. Do your ballot harvesting. Don't harass. Ask nicely of your family, friends, and everyone. Get those ballots in. No on 50. And we will take back California. Take her away, Jesse. That'll do it for today.
All right. Have a great night.
We'll see you.